next session is on a topic that is quite frequently discussed, that is the notion of belonging. And as well, it also addresses the plight of the marginalized. How do they survive? How do they endure? So moving along those same lines, this session has been titled Ways of Belonging, Mainstreaming the Margins. The delegates for this session are, and I would please request them to come up on the dais as I mention their names: Hansda Sowvendra Shekhar, Mitra Phukan, Mamang, and they will be having a conversation with Sivakami.
Identity, I think, not though it is attached to an individual.
Louder.
Identity, though it is attached to an individual, but I feel it is a collective consciousness that goes into identity as such. Whether one belongs to the mainstream or the periphery or the marginalized section, it's not only an individual attitude, but it comes from the society as a whole. I remember Beatrice Lumumba, a revolutionist in Belgium-ruled Congo. He went to school as a small kid, and all his teachers, he's black of course, all his teachers were white. And he was a privileged child, and there was a great chaos going on outside his home. All the blacks are trying to throw the Belgians out of their country. But he feels the white people are good. After all, they are my teachers. They teach us morals. They teach us the language. They give us the knowledge. How can they be bad? So he grows up with this consciousness. And also he used to argue, all his priests in the church, they are all from the white community. And they give us what is known as the soul, which always seeks to be good and aspiring to be good. So he never believed the statements with his fellow countrymen. And when he was educated and he joined a post in the postal department of the government, and he argued, you see, they have been spreading the rumor that the blacks cannot get government jobs. Look at me. I am so competent. If you are competent, if you are meritorious, you will definitely find yourself in the government. He argued himself, and he carried along. When he was 40, something happened in his life. He was expecting his promotion, and he was the only eligible guy to get the promotion that he knew. But instead of him, a white man was appointed. Then he thought, went back and read all the signals in his life right from the beginning. Then he came to understand there was a great conspiracy. They wanted educated, qualified slaves in this country. They needed few, and I supposed to be one of them. So his consciousness of the collective consciousness comes, only you are personally affected. But unfortunately, it has to come as a community, because people are not able to distinguish how discrimination takes place, how they have been siphoned off to the periphery without their own knowledge. So I have also have a similar kind of an understanding and argument, and finally I realized, because when my first novel was published, I thought I had written a novel, Life Around Me. And I went for a foreword to a writer who belonged to the Brahmin community. In the foreword she said it is some kind of a Dalit literature. I didn't know the word Dalit even. So I was trying to find out what is Dalit about it. There are many Brahmins, they write about joint family system, how they keep crying in the family setup, and a big burden of cooking for 20 people and then serving, laborious task and all that. And which was very alien to us. And the language also, they have a very protected language and circulated among themselves. But those novels are not called Brahmin novels. So why should my novel be called Dalit? then I started reading extensively. Then I realized, okay, that is the time that I have to accept this identity and go along with it and be a champion of the cause. So with these few words, I invite friends here to interact about how they feel the belonging to the territory, to the cause, to the community, and also to the mainstream, how they react to the mainstream. Shall I start with Mitra?
To go straight to the point about who I am. In Assam, I think, because recent history has been such that many of us are confused, right? I'm not talking of the caste at all here, at this particular point. What has happened historically, very brief, is that we are a very diverse, because of the topography and everything, we are very diverse in all our ways. Mamang is from Arunachal. But because, first of all, mainly because of the British who came here after the Treaty of Yandabu in the early 19th century, and they made it for administrative purposes, nothing else. They made it into a state which included many absolutely heterogeneous states which had nothing in common with each other. I mean, as far as culture, language, religion, so many other things, textiles, dress, everything. It was very... And my generation, at that time, Shillong was the capital of undivided Assam, right? And my generation, many of us grew up in Shillong. We were Assamese, but we lived in Shillong. But suddenly, it was becoming gradually more and more fragmented. And then different states came into being. And suddenly, I was not a person from Shillong anymore because I was an Assamese and I did not have the right to stay there anymore. So I came down, I was young at that time, but I know that many people have this sense of not belonging, okay? I know an elderly lady, for instance, who grew up in one part of Assam. She got married and stayed in Shillong, then she came down to Guwahati. Then now that her husband is dead, her son lives in Chicago, she lives there. So belonging, identity, what is she, who am I? Okay? And as far, because we're talking here of periphery and so on, in the previous session that we were in the Northeastern Pavilion, yes, we are regarded as periphery, mainstream, these are words we all hear. And yes, there is a lot of mainstreaming happening. There is lots of occasions when we come out of our region, we realize that, oh, okay, things are different. Or even within our region, when I go to her state or she comes to my state, when so many people, when we move across the region, we realize that we are not from here. We are periphery in a way, maybe not directionally within the region, but certainly we are mentally part of the periphery. So I think it is, you can be staying in your region and be the mainstream, because where I am is where the center is, right? And or you can stay, these are two binaries, or you can stay within that region and still feel peripheral. I feel peripheral when I go to my old home in Shillong nowadays. So that, this question of who is part of the center, because even within all our regions, there is so much heterogeneity, there's so much that differentiates. So the question of identity then becomes very complex. And as writers, all of us, we have, as you know, we have huge histories of oral literature and also written literature, which are there parallelly within the region in the various states together. So what is it that as writers, what is it that we, what is our identity? And I like to think now I'm comfortable with coming to terms with the fact that I have multiple identities. I do not have one identity. Most of us have multiple identities. And when we write, when all of us write, we are drawing on the well springs that are there within those multiple identities. And what makes perhaps, the term Northeast literature, which is actually a convenience term, but the very many multiple writings of very many individuals from very many different cultural and social spheres of that region that we know as the Northeast of India, what is it that is, unique in some way? One, of course, is that it has been relatively unexplored so far because of language and directional difficulties. The other is that there are some commonalities. We are comparatively much less urbanized, even in the cities. We are very close to the nature. Mamang, especially in her poems and she's very, very close. Though she lives in a city, she is very close to her roots, to the nature that surrounds her. Many of the writers are in touch that way. So these are one or two of the unique things that we can maybe continue this later.
Before going to Ms. Dai, I will just try to say one or two sentences about being heterogeneous. Maybe we are all differently made, and we belong to different culture, different languages. That doesn't matter at all to me, because all the 5 figures are quite differently made in order to be working together. But one figure in our palm doesn't fight the other one. So heterogeneous means living in peace and in variety, and it represents colors. These are all required for life, but not discrimination. What we are here talking about, the discrimination just because you are, because the identity of Dalit doesn't go with heterogeneity. Because Dalits themselves are heterogeneous. There are different groups within Dalits. And what is the hallmark is, they are also poor, they are also landless, they are also only doing the menial jobs. Is this an identity that one wants to hold? So that is the question. I switch over to Ms. Dai.
Thank you, Madam Sivakami, my colleagues on the dais, and good morning to everyone here. I was struck by what Madam had just said about, you become a champion of a cause. Now, willy-nilly, because we are writers or because we are in a particular profession, suddenly one finds, you might become an icon, you might become champion of a cause as a writer, coming from Arunachal Pradesh, among my people. But I have found this to be a very uncomfortable situation, actually. Even sitting here and trying to transmit something within ourselves, it may or may not be possible, but I thought, okay, let me give this my best shot. This is a subject that has been frequently discussed. But actually, when I wrote my first book, The Legends of Pensam, I think I was overwhelmed with such a sense of belonging, God knows to where, to what, to whom, but I was the center of that particular universe I was inhabiting at the time. And place names also were not specifically Adi, which is my mother tongue, even though I was writing about that region. Everything was kind of disguised, camouflaged, because I really felt it belonged everywhere and to everyone, whoever the readers might be. And I was in the process of writing because I think, you feel this is something you want to extract from your heart and put it in words. So I was very happy doing that. Now the trouble comes with post-publication. Recently, everyone says, the Northeast has received a lot of attention from big publishers. We also have the Northeastern Writers Forum, which did a lot of work to promote and bring literature out of the region. It's a wonderful organization we share for writers writing in English. So the language is another thing, but with publication, then comes questions of, gender writing, whether you are postnatal, a prenatal writer, a social reformist, an activist. So that this I find really kills your writing if you really start thinking about it and trying to create another reality for yourself other than the one which you are inhabiting at that time. Discrimination, yes, as we have been talking about. The books from the Northeast are not actually banned or burned or not read. People have been receptive, and I personally have not experienced being banned or being told not to write in a certain way. But there is another kind of negotiation that we have to deal with, and all my efforts at the moment is on that. It is not so much about the margin and the mainstream and the center, because I think that is a circle that really goes round and round, and the center shifts as you move, the center of your universe, if you can hold on to it. In my tribe, people always say, we have a saying when we have a meeting or you want to whisper to someone to stand up and be strong. They say, you sort of roughly translated, it would be just carry your own heart and don't forget, that kind of thing. So if you have that, that is all right. But within our own cultures, and Arunachal Pradesh has so many different tribes, you have different voices which can also be quite violent. So again, I think for people like writers, poets, you are again always on the margin there also. But I don't actually have a kind of, angry relationship with this, because I think that is the way I am, that is the reality of myself. I'm always, living on the edge, and that is, it is not such a bad place to be. Anyway, but there was something more I wanted to say, but one gets quite het up with all this. I'll pass the mic on and just try to collect my thoughts.
The writer's responsibility to reach the audience, and also being responsible to the entire community, not only the section that you belong to. And the writing, a period of time makes you also perfect in the process of writing. So that should be the real aspiration. And whether you are marginalized, whether you are in the mainstream, any writer's effort is to cross this, barriers, and then reach the whole, the whole personality of a human being, the aim of the human being to, to free himself or herself. So that's what she tried to say. I am in full agreement with her. But by discussing these issues, I think in literature we are trying to reach that level. Only when the discrimination is being talked about and discussed about, debated about, we can reach that level. I strongly believe that. And I switch over to Mr. Shekhar.
Thank you, Sivakami. Thank you all of you for coming. I would like to begin with something which Mitra said. That even if you are at times marginalized, you can feel that you are in the center. And even if you are in the center, you can feel marginalized. So this is a very ironic situation that I think people of my community are in. I am a Santhal from Jharkhand, which is not exactly a marginalized state, geographically speaking. It is very much there in the center. But politically, we are marginalized. So this is the irony. When I began writing, I did not see myself as an Adivasi writer or something. I just began writing. I did not know how I started writing. So there was no sense of responsibility then, and even now I'm not feeling kind of responsibility to speak for my own people. I just know that I have to create, and that is where I would echo Mamang, or what Mamang said, that it is difficult to take the responsibility of everyone, and like Sivakami said, that all the 5 fingers of her hand are not the same, because even here they might belong to one group, but even here we have all the differences. So, speaking as an Adivasi writer, I would say that there are so many Adivasi communities. In Jharkhand itself, there are so many Adivasi communities. So, how much responsibility can a writer bear? So, marginalized or whatever, a writer, I think, should just keep on writing. Like, there is this beautiful novel by Mamang which I read, Stupid Cupid. I read Stupid Cupid, and I really loved it because because when you have a writer from the Northeast, you would think of insurgency and all. But here, her novel was a very it gave a different point of view to a woman from Arunachal Pradesh who was living in Delhi. So I think I'm in that situation. I am not exactly marginalized. I have had a convent school education. I'm working with the government. I can call myself a salaried middle class person. So I'm not exactly marginalized. So maybe this responsibility thing should not be imposed upon writers. It will come out. And if the responsibility comes out, if people read you, they will realize that yes, this person has written a good thing. That's it.
Of course, she has points to answer, but I want to pose a question to all the 3 writers. How do you feel responsible, and how do you? When is the point that you feel that you are marginalized, and when is the point that you feel in the center? And also, I try to say the thing happened in Tamil Nadu. There was an incident that the writers wanted to react. Some of the progressive poets, women poets, they tweeted, though we belong to the dominant communities, we sympathize with the caste, with the cause, and a particular cause. So everybody started questioning. So what makes you think that though we belong to the dominant community, so that barrier still exists? So how do you define that? So how do you fight to take away that thing from your mind? Because it needs an effort. And writing on behalf of the community doesn't happen. You write. At the same time, you also expose the bad things about your own community. But the sense of ownership, in many writings we feel that they try to pay tribute to the community, to the father, mother. They want the parents. They want to own the parents. And then they want to own the legacy. So that is what is very intriguing. So now I will hand over to Mitra.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, what I wanted to add and what you have asked of us kind of gel together. Being marginalized can happen even when I'm in my own home state, in my own town in which I have lived for so many years. This is happening to me continuously because I write in English, right? Now, in Assam, and it's not true of all states, but in Assam, we are still seen as being, irrelevant, elitist, all of that. Because not for anything else, not for the content of what we write, but because we write in English. It is assumed that, so here it is the language that marginalizes us, okay? And I write of, like all of us, we write of Assam, or we write of the place we know, the place that we see around us. Of course, some of all our stories like Stupid Cupid and everything, they're based in other places. But that, I would say, home sensibility, we are looking from our center to another place, which then becomes the margin, okay? And as a writer in English, I have been feeling constantly marginalized. Now perhaps it's a little bit more because I'm much older and a few books older. But even so, and we have this huge, you know about it, we have this huge literary organization called Assam, I'm saying it in the Hindi way, Assam Sahitya Sabha or Hom Sahitya Sabha. It is Assam Sahitya Sabha, not Assamese Sahitya Sabha. But those of us who write in English, we are not part of it, we are marginalized. So, marginalization can come through language also, and it is not in the perceived hierarchies. It is not through the perceived hierarchies, it is not through the hierarchies that we usually think of. When you think of English, yes, we are privileged. We have had, as they say, an English medium education. But in this case, I and many writers from Assam who write in English, we are marginalized. But then again, this marginalization again becomes a center when we move out of the state and we are read by other people. Okay, so this is a fluid kind of a thing which can happen in so many contexts also.
Thank you. I was interested in how do you feel responsible, the questions you have raised, and when is the point one feels is at the center, you know. Now these are things I think we really tussle with. When Legends of Pensam came out, the first book, and I had this great sense of belonging, you know, it was released in Delhi. Then there was a great outcry from the people in my hometown, and they said, you should have released it first in Arunachal Pradesh, because we are the people of Pensam, you know, and I had been thrilled that at least one Adi word had gone out into the world. But that gave me a little bit of that sense of responsibility, you know. I'm writing about people who we don't have a script, and also writers are a little bit like thieves, you know, we steal people's lives, we're listening all the time, oh, that is a good character, and maybe the pale lady going up the lift will become, you know, a romantic seamstress in my next novel, something like that. But then I realized, you know, you're talking about people, and readers are liking, you know, the things you're trying to convey about these people, their stories, the landscape. I'm using my hometown landscape, the names of rivers. So it is now become a little bit of a tussle with me, actually, how I engage with my own community. I lived abroad for many years, you know, I left everything and then I returned. So these are the two big decisions, and having returned now, what Mitra also was talking about is, you know, language, the identity is intact, but culture, because of all the different groups, and as the area is becoming more into well, we're talking about mainstream, okay, becoming better known, it becomes like, who will define culture? No doubt it will survive. We're not concerned about, you know, identity and culture. They will survive. Whatever is meant to survive will survive, I'm sure. But who will define the terms of what kind of culture will survive? Into whose hands are we putting it? Is it the writer? Is it the students' union? Is it the government? So this has become a new area for me, to be honest, and I'm trying to engage with this quite directly and to know and learn more. So it has become more of an inside thing, you know, that I'm going into. And the center, of course, is still there. I hope I'm still myself. And the way I'm engaging with younger people or people in the region has become a little bit different. I hope there is a truer, deeper sense of responsibility for me as a writer in that?
To answer this question, when I feel marginalized, for the last 1 month I have been feeling marginalized when I have been standing in front of the ATM, okay, and there are 70 people in front of me. So the person who is at the head of the line, so he's at the center. I'm marginalized because I'm 70 people. I'm after 70 people. So this is the marginalization that I have been facing for the last 1 month. Apart from this, the marginalization in the society, it does not really come as a, a big bang or something. It just seeps in, That's the word for it. Insidious, I think, is the word for it. So it just gets in and you do not even realize that it is happening with you. Till some time has passed, till you have grown up, till you have matured to understand things. And then you remember those things that have happened to you. Like, I still remember the marginalization or the discrimination that I faced in school. Though at that time I was completely normal with it. I thought, I think this is what happens. But now when I look back on those things, I'm like, why did it happen to me? Okay, and even in college or even in the job, I wouldn't mention anything right now. So it just happens, and when it happens to you, you do not really feel bad at that time, but later on when you realize it, you are like, yes, it shouldn't have happened, that's not right. And this feeling which comes in, this is connected to your sense of responsibility. Like, when do you feel responsible? The moment you feel that something bad has happened to you, that is the time when you feel responsible. That is when you feel that, no, this has happened to me, maybe this should not happen to other people. And if I am, like here I'm speaking as a writer, so if I am able to discuss this, if I am able to bring this thing out in the open, like what has happened to me, this should not happen to others like me. So, and if people realize it from what I have written, so that is the moment when this responsibility, you feel that responsibility, and that's how it happens.
The last question to all the writers, and before that, how we feel that there is a necessity to mainstreaming them, because cultural-wise, the Adivasi culture, they feel very strong about their culture. Similarly, the Dalits also, they feel very strong about their culture. And every culture has its plus and minuses. So who has to mainstream for what? So this is the real question. And before that, I feel that in the IAS, I felt very empowered. If you look at my job career, I had a very good boss, nothing to complain. But when I look at the whole system of Tamil Nadu government, important two posts, namely the Home Secretary, who controls the law and order situations, the whole of Tamil Nadu, where the larger portion of people are agitating for water, basic communities, and he has to exercise control over them. And next is the Finance Secretary, who allocates budget to different departments. So these two posts, over the period of 60 years, 65 years, no Dalit has been posted. So now I feel whether I should be happy that I have not been marginalized, or whether I should sympathize with the community, whether why the posts were not filled up by the government. So this is my thing. So writers like to react. I will start with Shekhar.
Look, if you're not marginalized, you are appropriated. If you're not different from them, you are like them. So this is what shouldn't happen, and this is what we should possibly raise our voices against. So that's why, because see, diversity, again, five-finger thing. We are all diverse. We cannot be like one at any time. And I think that is the beauty. So, we should, if there is marginalization, maybe we should fight against it, but we should try to see that we are not being mainstreamed. We are not being appropriated by people who say that they are bigger, they are the majority, or they are the superior ones. So that's my point.
Yeah, I think mainstreaming, okay, in the context of literature, now I have just said, you know, a lot of publications have come out in the Northeast. Many writers are well-known, successful. But I think, again, in the post-publication scenario, the publishing houses don't sustain the publications of the Northeast. They never go into reprint. I have begged and, you know, offered to buy thousands of copies also because, okay, the state government wants it, but they are just not responding to my request. So I feel that is a little bit discriminatory. You know, are the other authors being really promoted left and right, and our books are not going into reprint? Okay, maybe, or it's a common thing. Okay, that is fine, because I don't just want to slap someone with, you know, the charge of being discriminatory when they are not actually. It is a policy thing. That is what I tell young radicals also, that, you know, you cannot just say something is racist or discriminatory. If it is a policy thing, it is a different matter. I will also join the fight, but be careful, because we don't want to throw accusations around. That is also another battle I'm waging at home. And in this, again, we also feel on the periphery sometimes, because, you know, whole clans can get together and say, this is what is right for us. And you are always the other person, you know, the dissenter who is saying, no, give it some more thought. So that kind of thing is there, but I think I'll pass it on to
Could I, Sivakami, just the repeat of the question, please? Because I'm so
What are the
engrossed
ways-
on what...
No, what are the ways of mainstreaming?
Okay.
And is there any necessity to mainstream? Because
Right,
the Dalit and
right.
Adivasi, their culture, they feel strong about their culture. The
Yeah.
Buddhist traditions they follow.
Yes,
In
yes.
Adivasi, they have their own culture. What is the need of mainstream? What does it really mean?
No, I would think, for me, I mean, culture is something we are all, culture is what we are, basically. That is what has shaped us. So we are all, you know, we are all passionate about our various different cultures. Different ways? No, Mamang doesn't agree. But, so how do we mainstream? What is the, you know, so I can speak for, because we in Assam, from the point of view of literature, okay, the written literature of Assam is very strong, and as are so many literatures of so many communities. But the thing is that they have not been translated very well, and these are stories that are so much a part of us, so much of who we are, okay, and so much of our ethos is embedded in this. So what is the need for it? It is this, you know, yearning. Please understand us, okay? Please understand us. Don't judge us. This is how we are. That is for all of us, right? So in my own humble way, and in other so many other writers also, though we write, when we do our original writings in English, we are also into translation of our mother tongues in a big way. We are all tribes. And as she had mentioned about the Northeast Writers Forum, we have this huge project, ongoing project, in which, you know, translations of all, multiple languages from the Northeast region, which showcase so much of the, you know, the culture is a big word, but yes, culture, language, custom, religion, all of that. So that is the responsibility. That is the responsibility that the writers have, no matter what languages we are writing in, to show that this is who we are, and basically not to, I don't know, just understand us. This is what we are. Okay? That's how I feel.
I think to sum up, mainstream really means to me that lack of exploitation and discrimination. Whichever culture, language, territory that you belong to, I think everybody should be treated alike, not only legally, but also socially. So that is the thing that we want to emphasize. Now, there is hardly 8 minutes left. Open to the audience for questions. Thank you.
It's lovely, been lovely listening to all of you, but I want to say something that, yes, there is always, you know, marginalization is perception, how you're perceived. I mean, I used to, at one point, as a journalist, used to feel marginalized when I wrote fiction. They say, but you're doing writing fiction, you're supposed to write fact. You write on cinema. They say, but you're a woman's journalist, why are you writing cinema? So people put you in compartments. And if you can break free of that compartment, as all of you have done. So the question of, and if your work speaks for itself, then you mustn't really think of what other people do for you. I think that's important, and I salute you all for doing that, for being here.
I think that marginalization in a way is a wonderful space which allows you to walk a tightrope and to get to understand the world from a different point of view altogether, rather than be part of that huge humanity which is absolutely insane and alive.
I think that is what we've been saying, that it is like living on the edge also in a way. And I did have a little question once where they said, well, you like living on the edge, this is also the geographical edge of the country, and what if you fall off? So I was very inspired at that time. I said, I'll sprout wings, and that was that, so I hope we can do that.
Everyone feels marginalized, of course, but in varying degrees. So we cannot just equate ourselves with the very, very worst marginalized sections of our society. So therefore, I think we make some differentiation in the aspect of how my work. I am not talking about my work at all. Whether it is, it fetches a prize, doesn't fetch a prize, whether it is aesthetically written or not written, I am not talking about it. I am only talking about the kind of discrimination that exists in the day-to-day world, and how certain communities are marginalized, and you have a kind heart towards them, try to understand them, and not try to equate and justify. So that is what we are trying to do. And another question?
Hello ma'am. Question to Mitra ma'am. You said that sometimes language brings marginalization. So while writing, which language we should choose, like native, national or international?
I think basically, for me, because I was educated in English, so it came naturally to me, but basically we are all at least bilingual, right? So even though I write in English, I am putting in so many words. I'm creating my own language, as we all are. Okay, so I am not one to give advice, but I think write in the language you are most comfortable in. Okay, and you can speak in another language, you can sing in another language, you can do so many things and so many. It's wonderful to be in a multilingual country, but you have to find your own voice, whatever language you are using.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to add a little. I met a couple of people living abroad. They have their own complaints about how they have been, socially or culturally ostracized, and they live in seclusion. And but everybody undergoes some marginalization. Only, if only they realize and understand, with others, equate with others. That is what we are trying to strike at. Any other question? Yeah, please. Mic to the Bruce, sorry.
I'm Sivakami speaking. I want to know what are the reasons for marginalization and how to see that it is limited to some extent or other can express through your novels the solutions for such problems.
Why some marginalized, the so-called marginalized, or why people are marginalized? I think this question can be best answered by people who indulge in marginalization, who say that you are not like us, you are someone else. So we cannot answer that. Or maybe I cannot answer that. Okay. But solution, talking of solution, giving solution is like taking a responsibility. So the best that we can do is, we can say that no, what you are doing is, we do not like it, it's not right. ठीक है. And that is what we are going to tell those people who are trying to marginalize us, also to others like us who are being marginalized. So I think that is the most we can do, and we can hope that sometime, at one point of time, there will be अच्छे दिन. That's it.
Okay. And I want to answer your question apart from Mr. Shekhar. There are specific needs of those marginalized sections which are not attended to. So if only the government and the writers in their writings, focus attention on these demands. For example, Jharkhand people have been fighting for their land. Northeast wants more allocation, because if you travel in Assam, you'll find how different it is from Chennai city or Tamil Nadu. So what happened to Assam? Why the government has have a stepmotherly attitude towards Assam? So all these questions will arise. So you look at the specific needs of those groups who are marginalized, try to address them. That is the only way that we can bring them to the mainstream.
In today's highly libertarian culture, how do we differentiate the feeling of marginalization from, a victim complex?
Anyone would like to answer? Okay. Yeah, there is a victim complex, but there is also a guilt complex. The opposite. All the time, our writings create guilt among the others, that there are sections marginalized and and we are the cause for that. So that is, they coexist. So therefore, if there is a guilt, there will be a victimhood complex. So only if you free from yourself from guilt, the victim complex also will go away, and vice versa. So in our novels, I think the future, it's going to be published. I'm trying to address how the person comes out of her victimhood is the trust the mainstream, trust the people as such. After all, we would like to tell our children that say lies, go and steal. We always teach them good morals, and if we hear that he is a very good person, we always feel happy as parents. So therefore, the trust is very, very important, trust and confidence. So the victimhood can be overcome only by trust and confidence. And these writings are meant to create such confidence among people. Yeah, last question. You want to answer? Yeah, please.
Ask the question first. Okay.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for your really generous, thoughtful, and articulate conversation. It was really a pleasure to listen to you all. I had a question about something Mamang said, where you said, what is meant to survive will survive, which I feel like maybe runs a little bit antithetical to the idea of holding up the margins. If you say that it's like a survival of the fittest, which maybe you might not be a strong enough stance to protect what needs to be protected. I wondered if you respond to that.
I think, I can expand on that a little bit. In the discourse for promotion and preservation of culture, ethnicity, this has also given rise to all kinds of things we never thought would come up. There are things, okay, now you can say you must wear this dress, or our children will be like this. We haven't yet introduced mother tongue into schools properly, where it is more necessary. But other things are overtaking, and then it becomes a bargaining point to say we are like this and how dare you treat us, in this fashion. That kind of thing. That is what I was saying. The best of our traditions, which have already come down through the ages, and even orally, just orally, because we don't have a script, that I feel will survive, It has already survived, and we are taking great pains to put that in somewhere, weave it into our stories without, in your face kind of thing. So just leaving little markers. So I feel that will survive. And we don't need to push so much to look for other things and kind of make it very dazzling, so that others will notice us and we can put up a front and say, you know, you better respect us because we are like this, that kind of thing, against discrimination that is coming up with all the different identities, you know, also rising up for recognition. So that kind of thing, that is where again we are on the margins, you know, as writers. But it was not a frivolous way of saying it, that, you know, whatever has to survive will survive. It was a thought. Anyway, thanks for the question. It makes me think about words also more, you know.
If there are any questions, so you can make them outside and discuss. Now the session comes to a close. I thank everyone. Thank you very much.